Well, good evening. It's Monday, July 28th, 2025. Welcome to episode 119 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And I'm not exactly sure if this is working or not. I didn't do a sound check before we came on. And then when I hit the intro, again, it was silent. So it may just be you and I, Rebecca, talking amongst ourselves. So if somebody maybe joins us and lets us know in the comment section if they can actually hear us, that would be helpful. Otherwise, it'll just be another episode of you and I sitting down chatting, because we rarely get...
There's Bobby.
Hey, what's up, Bobby? I see that you're in the chat. Can you hear us, brother? Can you hear us? Because I'm still having a hard time figuring this whole podcasting, live streaming thing out. And it's a week to week not knowing. Okay, cool, man. I'm glad that you've joined us tonight. Hope everything's well out your way. And I was thinking a little bit about you today, actually, because what we are experiencing is like what I would envision weather is like quite a bit out your way. It was very high humidity. We had about 70% humidity, which is very untypical for us this time of year. It's pretty rare that we would see anything above 40%. And typically when it's hot like it is today, 95 degrees, it's usually down around 20% humidity. And so it doesn't feel all that hot. But outside right now, there are towering thunderstorms over both ridge lines in the valley. And it is oppressive. And so I actually thought about you today thinking, man, that's what they deal with out in the Midwest, those big cumulus supercells and thunderstorms and all of that. But that's what we got going on here.
Ironic. I actually was thinking about him as well, figuring, hey, if we made this festival, I'd get to meet some of these people that we get to talk to. But
yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, I know we've got other plans this year, but maybe we'll get out that way. I'm looking forward to that. I'd like to come out there to Kansas and get a chance to go to the Midwest Preparedness Pro project and meet a lot of those fine folks out there. And I'd like to take you along with me.
Would you?
Yeah, no, I would, because I've been to a number of different festivals and you've always stayed home. And
oh, face it, you want me to go because you need somebody to cook you dinner.
Will you cook me dinner if I take you? Is that an invitation? Cool. Yeah, Bobby. Yeah, man. Yeah, we look forward to being able to come out there. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us. We had about like 19,000 lightning strikes the other day. Did you know that, Rebecca?
Yes, only because I spoke to our son.
Yeah.
And he was on his way first day back from being vacation and going out of county. And he was explaining that to me.
Right. Yeah, no, they haven't got a tremendous amount of starts out of that lightning activity, I don't believe, just yet. But as with any of those types of storms, sometimes they bring precipitation in, and it can take, a couple of weeks before those strikes start to actually heat up and get going. So they've got a few new starts out of that series of, thunderstorm activity. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's out of county doing his thing, and makes me glad I'm retired. I don't miss that right now.
Oh, I thought you liked that part.
I do like that part, but it's the sitting around waiting for shit to happen part I don't dig. And there's a lot of that goes on and everything. But when it's running and gunning, yeah, sign me up. But it's all the other shit.
But see, all that sitting around and waiting,
mm-hmm.
You had those inmates telling you all the fancy little tricks of how to make coffee out of a, what would they make it out of? A plastic cup or something bizarre?
Yeah, I learned a lot of neat prison tricks that they brought out to the grade. And it was kind of an informative learning experience working with a bunch of criminals. But I enjoyed that quite a bit, actually.
Mm-hmm. So now if you ever get locked up, you have the inside scoop.
What are you trying to say, man? I'm trying to get locked up. Yeah. But yeah, we're back this week, and I can definitely confirm we are another week older, and hopefully we're a little bit wiser, because that's really quite the point, is it not? To try to continually learn as we progress through our lives. So
hopefully.
Yeah. Are you feeling a little bit wiser this week?
Yes, it seems like there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
Even if it's something small, there's always something to learn.
Yeah, I agree. So here on the channel, guys, it's evolved over time, and I think it will continue to do so. And I like to keep things, I guess, at least for me, fresh and somewhat unpredictable. So as much as it may be a surprise from week to week for Rebecca and I, what we are going to talk about, because we just don't know.
More so for me than you?
Yes, I would agree. I would agree, since I'm one usually doing show notes. But, I want to keep it also fresh for the listening audience. So I'm going to add something to the repertoire tonight. But kind of to outline what we're going to chat about tonight is have a little bit of a homestead update as usual. And then I've got a couple of questions from folks from the channel that I wanted to answer in the Q&A segment. And I've got a quote of the week, a did you know, and then a new segment that I'll call Homestead Dilemmas, which is kind of it's kind of patterned after like the conflicted card game, if you will. But it's geared more toward homesteady type stuff. So I'm going to be adding that to the repertoire, and we'll see how that goes. But we'll see if you can get through some of these dilemmas, Rebecca.
I will try my best.
Yeah, we've got a couple of those. And then I've got a subject that I think could be a little bit edgy, which is going to be highlighting government and media hypocrisy with something called the hierarchy of death. But yeah, I know it's very cheery, right? Mm-hmm. Uplifting anytime you start talking about death, but we're going to go there because why not? Right? It's a part of life. Right.
It is. And you and I have a little bit of disagreement on some things that happen at that, but that's all right.
What are you talking about? Happen at what?
When you die.
Yeah. Do we disagree on things?
Well, as a person is getting ready to leave, I always say they have a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
Where it seems like, say, if they have dementia or whatnot, prior to them passing, it seems like all of a sudden, all of their memory came back for a short period of time, such as your dad, who had a difficult time remembering who any of us were, other than we were relatives. At a specific time, he knew exactly who our kids were and their names.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not saying I disagree with what you're saying there, but
for me, that's it's their saying goodbye, letting go.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So we're going to talk there. We're going to talk a little bit about the hierarchy of death, but in any event, how are you doing this evening?
I woke up excited because I was getting the stitches out of my hands, which were just driving me crazy. It was like sharp cat whiskers in my palms that I just couldn't wait to get out.
Yeah, so you got them out.
Those came out today.
Yeah, all is well, I take it.
They are well. Hands are healing up as well as to be expected, and it feels much better to have them out. I have to say that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad that you got that procedure done, and hopefully, it's not something that you're going to have to deal with in any of your remaining fingers for some time, I guess.
I hope not. One of the things they asked me is if I wanted to go to physical therapy, but little did they know that physical therapy for me had started a long time ago with canning tomatoes, canning other items on that here at our house, regardless of stitches or not. So
yeah, you've been busy. You've been right back in the saddle. Good evening, Dean Mullis. How you doing, man?
Hi, Dean.
Thanks for joining us. You're always welcome to stop in and say, hey, glad to see you. What's Bobby saying here? It says, says my neighbor's tree was hit 4 4 times a few days ago, loud as shit, and it blew parts of the tree off. His EMP shield took part of the hit and saved his house, actually. Nothing failed. Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
That's awesome. Another testimonial from the EMP shield world. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's really great about those shields is it will provide that level of protection for the homeowner if you have one installed on your home. So, yeah, that's cool. It's good to hear, Bobby. But in any event,
that's something that we actually talked about in an earlier episode of where it was that we were going to put ours. And we chose to do it on our motorhome because it fit 2 bills. One, it was a place that we could live in, plus we could drive it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that just made the most sense for us from the standpoint of preparedness. If something happened where we had to, leave our house. And primarily what I was thinking of is if something happens to our house, maybe a fire or something where we don't have our home to live in any longer, we've at least got that where we can not be out in the street or living in a motel. We could manage to still have a vehicle to be mobile and live in our own space, I guess, right? Yeah, so that's kind of our bug out plan. Other than that, we're sticking around and we're fighting, right?
We're fighting.
We're fighting.
To the end.
That's right. So I think what keeps it unpredictable, this, I guess, just everything in general, life, is just that I'm always learning something new. And what I learned this week, I had no idea. And it kind of surprises me that it was never anything that I learned, given the fact that I've been involved in emergency incident management, from the standpoint of emergency medicine, I should say. I became an EMT when I was 16 years of age, and that's quite a number of years ago. And it wasn't
just a couple.
Yeah, they taught us anatomy and physiology, but it wasn't anything that they talked about from this standpoint. But I was perusing TikTok, as I normally do often, and I came across whatever you call it, a TikTok, a reel or whatever. And it was basically saying that the calf muscle was referred to as the second heart. So were you aware of that?
I was not.
Yeah, nor I. And so I thought, no way, I got to look this up. And so after doing a little bit of digging around, it in fact is. And it's an interesting thing. But again, here's an old dog learning a new trick. I'm learning something new. And I think that's awesome. But so this will be this week's Did You Know? And I wanted to break it down like this. The calf muscle is, well, there's 2 muscles, right? There's the big bulbous one, and then there's the one below that, which is the soleus. But it's 2 muscles. They refer to it as the calf muscle. And how it works is that it plays a key role in helping pump blood back to the heart against gravity in the lower body. And how it actually does that is the calf muscles contract during movement, like walking or whatever, running, and it squeezes the deep veins that are within your legs, right, in your lower extremities. And it helps to force that blood back in the veins up towards your heart. And so, I don't know. What do you think of that? It's pretty amazing, no?
I think the body in itself is pretty amazing. But yes, I didn't know anything about that. And yeah, I find that very fascinating.
Right.
And hello to Double Oz.
Hey, Double Oz is in the house. How are you doing? Let's see. What do you say? You say, now that I have my own YouTube channel showing my journey growing black soldier flies for my chicken feed. Hey, that's awesome. Congratulations. And welcome to the world of content creation. That's fantastic. I think everybody should share their journey to whatever extent that they feel that it will be beneficial to others. That's fantastic. But thanks for joining us tonight, Double Oz. So anyhow, this whole idea of that being your second heart. And so what I thought of is I'm thinking, well, okay, that's great. It's the second heart that does that function. But what happens to the blood in your legs when you're not walking or doing anything like that? How does it get back to your heart? And it's like there's three other bodily functions that basically aid in that. And so your veins have like a one-way check valve in them. So they have these one-way valves that prevents the blood from flowing backwards. So once it passes a certain point, it's going to not come back. And then the second is your respiratory function. So as you breathe, it's you're squeezing your abdomen and all of that, and it helps to move blood through. And then the other part is just the pump itself. Your heart is moving that blood. And so those three things combined help to move your blood back up to your heart, even when you're sedentary and not doing anything.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. But older people, they tend to have problems with varicose veins and deep vein thrombosis and things like that. Because their heart because they become more like sedentary. They're not moving around as much. They don't have as much muscle mass. A whole host of reasons why their systems start to fail, and then they get big swollen ankles.
So that's what I was going to say was the swelling of the ankles, because you typically see that in older people. Edema
and stuff like that. But I mean, that can be counteracted by elevating the legs or compression garments and things like that, which help to act kind of like that second heart, the muscle. But kind of interesting, huh?
That's very interesting.
Yeah, the body is super complex. And yeah.
So when you have muscle cramps in that area, does that interact with any of that? Is that play a part of nothing?
I can't really speak to that. I don't know. But I would suspect anytime you have any muscle contraction down there, it's going to have some effect on the veins and everything within that region. But the second heart.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Who knew?
I did not.
I did not either. Let's see. Double Oz says, we measure patients for compression stockings. What patients are you referring to, Double Oz? I know that I have some compression socks, but that's for my, if I have swelling after running and stuff like that, I'll put them on. But I think that's something that older people tend to have to wear for, circulatory problems. But young, healthy people that are active and mobile, they don't typically have circulation issues in their lower extremities, but older people tend to. Their one-way valves and all the heart pump and everything starts to wear down, and then the blood just kind of settles there, if they're not active. Let's see here. I work in a primary care office. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That definitely makes sense. Yeah. So, well, let's move into kind of what we've been doing here on the homestead for this week. And I guess when we started, I said we are a little bit older, of course, and hopefully we're a little bit wiser,
yes.
Right? And another thing that I both learned this week is Rebecca and I learned about sewer flies.
Yes.
And what I find fascinating about the fact that we're just now learning about sewer flies is we have over 100 years of collective wisdom between you and I. You would think we would have learned about this at some point down the way. You grew up in a house. Did you have septic in the house that you grew in?
No.
Okay. It was a city. Yeah. I mean, I've been on septic my entire life for the most part, minus the time that we lived in the city. But it's something we experienced here this past week. Why don't you talk a little bit about how you came to learn of these sewer flies?
Plus, we've been in this house for almost 25 years and never had. This is our first incident but our daughter came and stayed with us, and she said there's some bugs in the bathroom. So she was going to use one of the other bathrooms. But she didn't really elaborate on how many bugs there were. And so when she left, I went in to check that bathroom, and the tub was just lined with these little tiny flies. They were on the floor. They were on the counter. It was disgusting.
Was there 1,000 of them, would you say, or more?
Oh, there were probably more.
Yeah.
More.
So what'd you do?
That particular bathroom doesn't get used very often. And there were a couple things in there. One is the plug was stuck up, so you couldn't, in the bathtub, you couldn't actually push it down and have it stick. And then the other is the toilet had lost all of its water. So in essence, it was open. So it's kind of up to us to guess if it came up through the bathtub or came up through the toilet, or both of them. I would say probably both of them by the amount that were in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I went in to clean the bathroom up, and I did find that they do not like scrubbing bubbles very much.
That did the trick?
That did the trick. I tried a couple different things.
Right.
I tried some Clorox down the drains, and they still were flying and landing on the walls. That didn't really stop them much. And I think I used some vinegar down the drains, and that didn't slow them down. But scrubbing bubbles did.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. And I had, again, never heard of them and hadn't had the privilege of encountering them here since we've lived here. But in looking into what they're basically just kind of a tiny little fuzzy winged fly that is about 1/4 inch in length. They're smaller than an actual house fly, or about an eighth of an inch long. They're pretty small.
They're tiny. They're bigger than a gnat, but not as big as a fly.
Yeah, and they go through the same developmental stage of, egg and larva and pupa and then into a fly. But they basically breed in slimy organic buildup and septic systems or drains. And so conceivably, that's where they came from.
Yes. And this bathroom happens to be right in line with the sewer, or our septic. Sorry.
They're all in line with the sewer.
Our septic system. Well, it's relatively close to it.
Yeah, it's fairly close. But anyhow, we dealt with that this past week, and we learned something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And how about the beets? I harvested all of our beets this week, and you've been working for the last 3 or 4 days trying to get these beets corralled and canned up. Mm-hmm. So what's going on there? What's the status?
Well, I have to say, I've said before, I don't care for beets. Eric loves them.
Yep.
I was gone when he pulled up all the beets.
Yeah. But
prior to that, I had been cleaning the house and whatnot, and I come in, and much to my surprise, my kitchen smelled like dirt.
Yeah. Those are beets.
So then I found the box of beets. That made my kitchen smell terrible.
Yeah.
According to me. So they have been cooked, or not really cooked. You boil them for a little bit for them to slightly soften and the skins to come off. But they've been pickled and jarred. It's taken me a few days to actually get that going. How
many have you probably put up right now?
I've gone through the majority of them.
That doesn't tell me how many. How many quarts and everything?
I have about 12 jars.
Okay. And you just bought some more today, right?
That was another topic that we talked about, was that there seems to be so many mason jars when they're empty. But amazingly, I had to go buy more.
Yeah. How much were they?
For a flat of these in Walmart.
What are these? Quarts?
Mason quart jars. Wide mouth. They were about $18.
Okay. Yeah, that's cheaper than what somebody had mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I think Laura from Potpourri of Life was on, and she was saying that they were, I don't know how much, but it was like $20 or more, right?
But I also have to give a shout out to a Shannon, who I don't know if she watches this channel or not, but she did agree with me that they taste like dirt.
Yeah. Same with Michelle Ogilby Flores. She chimed in on my Instagram and said, yep, I agree with Rebecca. They do taste like dirt. So that's okay. I'll eat them. I think they are delicious. They're very good for you. And I like them. So thanks for making them.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same with salmon. I don't care for that, but I do
You don't
cook
care
it for him.
Anything.
Oh, please.
What are we having for dinner tonight?
We're having hamburgers.
Okay.
And fries.
Point taken, right?
I'm all American.
There you
what
go.
Can I say?
You're an American girl. That's right. Beet free. So I got the rest of the potatoes in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And those have been planted, and they're a month earlier than normal. So we're going to see how that runs this year. But I got 2 beds of potatoes in. So those hopefully we'll be able to harvest by January, provided we don't get a wicked frost in December.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll plant again and then get another crop.
So do you still have more of those seed potatoes left?
No,
or
they're in the ground.
Okay.
Yeah. I used them, every bit of what I had for seed, but I got both those beds planted. So that's something that folks might want to consider doing if, they live in a similar climate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I've been working the last couple of days pretty diligently in the compost, moving compost out of the chicken yard. And the chicken yard, I will say, I get a lot of interest, people asking about the chicken yard and, enjoying the content that I've put together, showing kind of what I do in there. And I'm probably going to make another video here shortly. Just as another glimpse into the evolution of that yard. One of the things that I will say about it is that it's not in any way like a passive system. It may look that way to some folks on the outside when you look at like a video or something, and you don't realize the amount of, actual work it does take just to maintain the production of compost. Now, I will say that they are a big help in making the compost and all of that. But as far as the material coming in and the material going out and the material that gets like reorganized almost on a daily basis, that's all me.
Mm-hmm.
And, unfortunately, I wish I would have set things up in a little bit different way when I first made that chicken yard. But it's one of those things you deal with that you made some mistakes. You can just kind of work around them. But right now, this time of year is, there's a lot of summer growth out there still. And the trees and the vines and everything are going to continue to put on growth. And so I like to come through, particularly right around this time of year, and top those trees, bring their vertical height down, because I don't want, trees that are 15, 20 feet tall. That to me, I don't want fruit trees that high. And so right now is a good time to go through and to bring that vigor out of those trees. And it's more or less just kind of a rough sculpting. You're not doing anything finite, or I should say doing any fine tuning of your pruning. It's just bringing it down to about 7 feet. And so I started doing that in the orchard as well as in the chicken yard this past week, and or in the past couple of days, I should say. I brought at least a pickup load of material that I've trimmed out of there. And what do you think? Does it look a lot better? Is it easier to move around in there? Because if you don't, it's like a jungle.
Right. No, it does. I actually thought you took the curly willow out because you took off a great big chunk of it.
Yeah, one big branch that's kind of in the way. And one of the reasons why I was looking at doing that is because one of the things that I've been considering is moving the coop that's on the outside of the chicken yard in the yard. So that will make it a little bit tighter in those quarters. But the reason why I'm considering doing that is for this reason. I would be able to set both of those coops up with the automatic doors that is going to open up in the morning, and then it's going to close at whatever time in the evening I set it to close. And then that way it would eliminate us going in there and having to put the chickens up. That's the only reason I haven't done that to this point, because I have that one coop that's on the outside. Number 2 is on the outside. And So I'm considering doing that. So I need to kind of open that space up. But I want people to understand that the chicken yard is an ever evolving project that requires constant maintenance. But it's something I'm most glad that I started, because I will tell you that it's fantastic to know that I can go out there at any time of the year and I've got copious amounts of compost that I can do things with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I would say that I easily 12 to 15 yards of finished compost, not 20-day or 30-day compost, but compost that's been aged for 8 months or more. And so right now I've been going and starting to move some of that material out because I need to make way for what's coming this fall. We're already starting to get somewhat of a leaf drop in some places. And then pretty soon the leaves will begin to fall once we get a little bit closer to the actual fall. And then all of that material is going to be coming into the yard. So I'm trying to shift some of the things that I've got in there right now, but that's what I've been working on the last couple of days. Yeah. Hogs 14, how you doing? And Bill Zegley in the house, Lewisburg, Tennessee. Thanks for joining us, guys. Were you going to say something?
Yes. So the chicken area is just on the other side of the dog kennel area. Mm-hmm. And we don't really utilize that space. I don't know. Is that difficult for chickens to be on cement?
I'm not putting them on concrete. No way. Well, chickens crap too much, right? And what do you want? Like crap on the cement? They would still have to be carbon in there like we have in the yard. Mm-hmm. So I'm not interested in utilizing that space. I would put that other coop in the yard. And that's kind of what I'm envisioning possibly doing. Haven't made up my mind if that's going to actually work, but I'm going to take some measurements and look at how I could maybe arrange some things. But that would be the goal, because it's going to be less work for us. It'll be a little bit more automated. And then I was also thinking about creating some better watering options for us, so that it's like each one of those could have a 50-gallon watering reservoir rather than what we're doing now, because it requires a lot of our attention. And as I said at the start of this year, I want to try to eliminate some of the things that we're doing that are repetitive. And particularly if we decide we want to go somewhere, it's going to place more of a burden on anybody that we ask to watch after the animals. And so this is just a way that I can possibly streamline some of that stuff. And it should be able to happen fairly easily if I just commit to doing that. But that's what I've been working on here in the chicken yard in the last couple of days.
You need to build a stand type of thing that goes over the water, because we have at least one chicken that really, really likes to sit on top of the watering and just poop in it.
If my point is if I make something, they're not going to have the ability to get on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would make it so that they're not getting up there. But right now, yeah, they can get up there and they poop all in it and do whatever. So
it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah. Good thing you don't have to drink it, huh?
It's amazing they drink it.
Yeah. So another thing that happened this week is I was looking at our feed stores for the hogs, and I'm down to about 100 pounds or so of feed remaining from what I purchased out of 2000. And I was getting quite concerned about the fact that I thought that I was going to have to start buying some feed for these animals when I've already bought feed. I don't want to have to run down a Tractor Supply and spend a bunch of money if I don't need to. And so I had asked Rebecca to see if she could get an earlier graduation day. And how did that go?
I actually was very fortunate to bump it up a week earlier. I tried to do 2 weeks, but that was out of the question. But they did allow, somebody actually had canceled. So that opened up a spot, and we were able to move it up.
So they're going to be the week of what?
The week of the 4th.
The 4th. Okay. So that's a week earlier, which is good. But what I found on Saturday, I kind of just, for whatever reason, it clicked in my mind. I thought, I don't think we're done with all that feed that I got for really cheap. And so I had picked up about 1,200 pounds of, it's basically almost like a cornmeal. And I picked it up for 15 cents a pound. I got this phone call one day from the guys at the mill because they know that I want cheap feed. And they said, hey, we got some of this. You want some? And I said, yeah, sure. I came down and picked up about 1,200 pounds of this feed. And we've been feeding it to the chickens. We fed it to a little bit to the sheep, a little bit to whatever we've got around here. And we didn't feed it all once I killed those roosters, because we were feeding it to those roosters. And then so it's been sitting there ever since, but I didn't realize that. We still probably got another 300 pounds of that feed. And so that'll get us to the end of graduation day. So I was very happy about that. And I will say that if you guys are out there and have the ability to, maybe you've got a small homestead or what have you, and you've got some space, or even if you are just living in like the suburbs or something, it's really great to try to get those storage containers. They're fantastic. I didn't pay a dime for the ones that I got. I got them from a friend who happens to have access to a bunch of them. So I was like, yeah, I'll take as many as you can give me, So I think I picked up like 12 of them, and they're really great. They're 60 gallons. They have a screw top, and they're, super durable. And these ones that I got were, they were food grade or whatever, and they were storing olive barrels, they were storing olives. And so you just get them, you wash them out, and then I repurposed them around here primarily for using feed, for feed. But they're great because they're like black plastic. There's no UV going to get in. So if you wanted to use them for water storage, that would be a great option as well. Give you another 60 gallons or whatever of water somewhere. They would be great for storing any of your prepper items, whereas you could dig a into the ground and then do whatever, seal up your stuff and put it in this thing underground, and you've got an underground cache. So they're just a great resource to have. You can buy them on like Facebook Marketplace, and you might find them on Craigslist and things like that, or you might just keep your eye out for them locally. But yeah, I can't say enough about them. I've also made my compost tea brewer out of them, and they're pretty inexpensive. But
yeah, we have quite a few of them. And then we were fortunate because we do have quite a few of them that we have them in various different areas for storage.
Yeah, you betcha. I also this past week finally got around to eradicating that thing that's been growing in the chicken yard. Whereas it started, it was kind of small, and then it just kind of really took off. And by the time I decided to do something about it this week, it was, I would say the end of it, the stalk at ground level was probably about the size of a sledgehammer handle. And the height of it was at least 7 feet tall. And it has these big kind of broad, velvety green leaves. And
like heart-shaped, I think is what they described them as.
Well, that's what they were. And then it had some flowers and seed pods. And so what I did is I took a picture of this and asked the AI Grok. I said, hey, what is this? And it came back, it said it was velvet leaf. And again, I'm learning something new because I'd never seen or even heard of velvet leaf. But when I looked at the plant and then looked at a bunch of other images on Google or what have you, it was in fact and indeed velvet leaf. And so the seed either came here from a bird that had deposited it, maybe sitting along the fence line there, or what I learned about this particular plant is that the seeds can remain dormant up to 50 years. And so if they're in an area that's just right, and there was in an area that wasn't being disturbed, there was plenty of moisture, there was plenty of fertility being in the chicken yard, it might have just struck the right chord for that thing to take off. But I'd never seen such a plant. And yeah, it's a kind of an invasive plant that does have some medicinal value, of course, but it can be quite invasive for people that are actually trying to grow corn and different things, agriculturally. But yeah,
I was
interesting.
kind of curious to see if it was going to grow like a type of a fruit or something, just when it was going, before it flowered out.
Yeah. It's crazy when new things come on the property. You're like, what is that? And you have to try to ID it and see if it's of any value or if it's something you even want to keep on your property. But I don't think I want a bunch of that stuff growing around here. So I just kind of eradicated it.
I noticed you got the stalk and everything out.
Yeah. And I took as many of those seed pods as I could find and got them out of here too. So,
Good.
Yeah. So I wanted to jump into this new thing, Rebecca, called Homestead Dilemmas. And so I'm going to read this to you and you tell me what you would do as, I guess, the person making the decision for the two of us. Okay. Here's the scenario. A close friend wants you to join their homestead. Or excuse me, a close friend wants to join your homestead, but lacks the skills or work ethic to contribute meaningfully. Their presence could strain resources, but turning them away risks damaging the relationship. How do you decide and what boundaries do you set?
It's a difficult one, but you have to kind of protect yourself. And for me, I would say that, hey, I really would love to help you out and you assist, but right now I don't have the means to do that. But hey, check back with me later on and we'll see what we can do for you. That doesn't make it go away. It just kind of postpones it for a bit. And either they'll have found somebody else that they can glom onto, or maybe they realize that, hey, I need to step up my game, or you have to address the issue again. What would you do?
Yeah, I would tend to side with what you have said. I'm not going to do anything that's going to put me and you at risk. I mean, that's going to be my first choice. My first consideration is going to be, if I'm giving them something that's going to put me in a bad way, I'm probably not going to go there. That said, I certainly wouldn't want to just send them out on the street without something. I mean, we have basically have enough where we should be able to send them, on their way, in other words. But I mean, I would make it certainly known that it's just not in the cards at this point in time, similarly to what you've said. That's just the reality of it. Right. What do you think?
Which is pretty much kind of the line that I give to a homeless person that comes up and is begging from you. It's, hey, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash on me.
Even if you do, you say that you lie to them and say that you don't, even if you do?
I generally don't. I usually only have a debit card on me. So it's not, so I haven't had to address that issue.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah, I would lie, honestly.
Yeah. But like I said, I
would tell them that I don't, even if I didn't want to give it to them, or I felt that it wasn't something I wanted to contribute to. I don't have to feel, or I don't feel compelled to give somebody something just because they ask. Right. And if I think it's not in their best interest or my best interest for me to do that, I'm not going to be compelled to assist them. So I would lie. Hey man, I don't have any change for you right now. Sorry. And not be an asshole about it, but say, hey, sorry, I can't help you, man. Even though I might have some money in my pocket.
Right. But like I said, generally I don't.
Right.
I have cash, but that is.
Would you lie to your friend?
It depends.
On what?
it depends on if that friend is in a hard way. Well, let me put it this way. I had a friend who was not able to buy her daughter a yearbook. And so I stopped by the school and I actually bought the yearbook, but I did not leave my name or anything. I said, just call her up and let her know that she got a yearbook. So I didn't tell the friend. So there was no connection to me.
Yeah.
But I did help out.
That's a nice thing.
This was actually a close friend.
That's a nice thing to do. But would you lie to that close friend? Because that's what the scenario was. A close friend wants to join your homestead. So the question I think really is how close are they and how compelled do you feel like you are?
Okay. So I'm going to agree with you.
Assist them.
I'm going to agree with you in the fact that for me, my family, and my children, that is my top priority. And if that requires me to lie to a close friend, then yes, I would send them on their way. If I had something to give them, I would give them a carton of eggs or what have you. And just wish them luck.
Yeah.
And, hey, if nothing comes about, check with me later on.
Yeah.
And hopefully something will have come about.
Yeah. I don't think that's a scenario that's likely to happen, but it's something that could happen. Right. This is just a hypothetical of being in that position.
Well, I actually have been in that position because I have a brother who has problems and is on the street, and he has called and wanted help. And I've had to turn him down, and then I've had him turn and call me names, and I was a horrible person, and how dare I? And
families are complicated, aren't they? Sometimes
they are. However, he seems to come back around and be somewhat forgiving.
Yeah.
So, but it was not to his advantage to give him, because it was going to go to the wrong thing.
Yeah. Well, you're a real hard ass, you know that? Yeah. So anyhow, let's move on to the next one here. Here's the next scenario. A fellow homesteader in your local area is spreading misinformation about you. Do you confront them, ignore it to maintain the peace, or handle it in another way? How would you approach this conflict while upholding your values?
I would either ignore it or handle it in a different way. But I probably would lean heavier on the ignoring it, because I think just by the things I do, other people would, realize I was a good person. My values would be upheld.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Personally, I would confront the individual, find out what their motivations are. Hey, why are you, this is what I've heard. You've said this about me. And then just leave it at that and let them explain why they've said whatever they've said, or try to deny whatever and then just let the person know that, I'm more about finding answers to things rather than just leaving them out there for chance, because it might be a long time before people realize you're actually a good person, because word spreads fast in small towns. Right. And if there's messages out there and people are saying things about you that are untrue, personally, for myself, I would tend to want to have a conversation with that person and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you saying these things? Because it's not true. And if you continue to spread these lies, then we'll take it to a different level.
Yeah.
But I'm not personally feeling comfortable just allowing people to talk shit about me. They can do that online all they want. They can troll me or whatever, and I could care less. That really means nothing. But it hits a little closer to home when it's in your hometown, and you have some person stirring up shit with the people you have to live with. There's people on the internet that I'll never see, and there's a lot of people that say a lot of bullshit that just rolls off my back. But when it comes to where you gotta lay your head, that, your reputation, it does mean something. And so I wouldn't just like, oh, I'm just not going to say anything. So you would tend to want to just ignore it.
Well, I guess it depends on what the person is saying. For me, sometimes when you get into it like that, that just gives that person more fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say that I would ignore it, because if you ignore it, you're not feeding the fire for them to continue to fight back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that's actually damaging, then I probably would say something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying either way is the right way to go. It's just a question of how you would handle it. And it's a possible homestead dilemma, if you will. Right? So, yeah, that's good. At least we're not in lockstep, huh?
That's right.
Yeah. So I had a quote for this week, and I think this is kind of a good one. I don't know. You tell me, Rebecca. What do you think? And it goes like this. Let everyone sweep in front of his own door, and the whole world will be clean.
I would agree with that.
You like that one?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that came from a guy named Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, who was a guy that I'd never heard of. And it's not surprising at all that I'd never heard of him, because he was a lot earlier than our generation. He actually died in 1832.
Trying to tell me you weren't around then?
Yeah. And he's like a unicorn, actually, because he lived to be the ripe old age of 82 in 1832, man. That's
wow.
That's like 1% of the population might have lived till they're 82,
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What'd they make it to? Like in their 30s back then?
Well,
they're lucky.
Here's the thing. Yeah, that's very true. It's the average life expectancy was like 30 to 35 back then, but that's due to the child mortality. The fact you have to factor that in, because so many children never made it to adulthood because of, different things that caused them, either accident or illness, caused a high percentage of young people to die. So that really drove down their numbers. But if you actually made it to adulthood, if you made it to like 40, the percentage got a lot better. But even as such, this dude was only about 1% of the population made it to that age. But he was a German polymath. You know what a polymath is? I
don't.
A polymath is somebody who's like a jack of all trades. He's like really good at like this, that, and the other thing, right? Mm-hmm. And he was widely regarded as the most influential writer in the German language. He was a poet. Here comes the polymath part. He was a poet, a playwright, a novelist, a scientist, a statesman, a theater director, and critic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talented.
Yep. But I did like that quote. And one of the reasons why is because it reminded me of something I heard just this past week on a podcast. I enjoy listening to Patrick Bet-David, the PBD podcast. And I heard he had a guy on that I listened to. His name was Charleston White. Mm-hmm. This was a kind of a bombastic guy from the inner city, black dude. And this guy said some pretty crazy stuff. He he kind of pushed some buttons for some people, I think, that happened to listen to that. But one of the things that he had said when Patrick was asking him some questions, Patrick asked him, how do you go about fixing the problems within your community? And what he said really, really resonated with me, because he started with, you look in the mirror and fix the things that are wrong with you first. Then you can progress to straightening up within your house. And then once your house is in order, you can go out and you can straighten up your yard. And then you can reach out to help your community. But it all starts with you looking in the mirror first, mm-hmm. right? And that's very much like reminded me of that quote from the old Ludwig or whatever the hell his name was. What did I say? His name was Johann Wolfgang. Ludwig, it's close.
That's actually something that
right. Start with you. Look in the mirror and start with you before you start pointing fingers and saying what needs to be done within your community or elsewhere. That's where it has to start, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's something that anytime anybody is having difficulties, it's actually something that I say to them as well. The first person you have to take care of is you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't help somebody else until you help you.
Right. Yeah, that's where it all starts. But yeah, let's jump into Q&A. Had a couple of questions. One was related to comfrey. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, this comes from Cowboy 15149. And he just basically said, how good is comfrey for livestock? And I gave him this response. I said, it's high in nitrogen and loaded with micro and macronutrients. I feed it to my ruminants and they like it quite a bit. I would not feed it exclusively, but rather as a supplement. And that's very true. You wouldn't want to feed your animals comfrey exclusively. And the reason why is because it's high, it has pyrrolizidine, excuse me, if I can even get this out, it's pyrrolizidine alkaloids. So those alkaloids, if too many of them are consumed, they become toxic, they accumulate in the liver, and they can cause liver damage. So you wouldn't want to just, hey, you're eating nothing but comfrey. But it's a source very high in nitrogen. It has potassium, magnesium. It has a lot of cool stuff in it for animals nutritionally. However, it has those pyrrolizidine alkaloids. And so you wouldn't want to just solely feed them that. So if you were to feed them like a little snack every 3 days or so, completely fine. And I've done that with the animals for a bit now. Mm-hmm. They've benefited from it. So that's the answer to that one. Any questions?
No, but it does answer why our daughter, who is a vet, said, that stuff's poisonous.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of things are poisonous if you eat too much of it, right? Uh-huh. If you eat it exclusively. So that falls in that category. Next question is from Windows69. Says, can I get an update video about improvements you made and how things have held up so far with predators in your water system? This sheep tractor you've come up with is really brilliant. It solves the mobility issue by having something that closes the lower gap be able to be held up also. The water system as well. It's also brilliant. I have not seen any videos showcasing how to make a highly functional sheep tractor that is so effective and brilliant thought of as yours. I am so impressed. Yeah, thanks for being impressed. I'm not maybe as impressed with it because there's things about that tractor that I would absolutely change. And so therefore, I will say that it's worked well for a couple of years for us. Mm-hmm. It's held up well. It's served its purpose. Never had any predator losses. But I have considered making a follow-up video talking about some of the things that I would have changed if I had to do it over. And so based on this particular question, I might be starting to think about actually putting together a video for that.
So what you're saying is you want to get more sheep?
No, I'm not saying I want to get more sheep. I'm just saying, I'm saying that I could go out and do a video because I have had a number of people ask that question. Mm-hmm. And so I probably should invest a little bit of time into making some content regarding how it's worked, right? It's one thing to have an idea about something. It's another thing to actually put it into practice and see how well it actually works.
Maybe you want to get goats. That's what you're thinking about, huh?
No, I'm not. Are you want goats? I do not want goats. So anyhow, well, it's been a tough week, I would say, for Gen X and folks who have grown up in the 90s. It's been a tough week for people dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
First, you had Malcolm Jamal Warner, which that didn't really strike too much of a chord with me. You know, I watched The Cosby Show like many people did when that show was popular.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like when he died, I was like, oh, that's kind of, that's a drag. But then you had Ozzy Osbourne. And Ozzy was somebody who I actually listened to in high school and stuff like that. And I liked a number of his contributions in the music world. I like some of his stuff. And then you got hit with Hulk Hogan. And
that was a surprise.
Yeah, it was quite a surprise. I didn't know he was ill. He just dropped dead of a heart attack or heart failure or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting how it kind of comes in threes. Mm-hmm. And in fact, there was the other guy that the horn player guy that died, which, people die all the time. So it's not that big of a deal, but they do say that, these type of thing, it all kind of comes at once. People die in threes or what have you, but interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
That's very interesting. I wouldn't say that Ozzy was too much of a surprise in the fact that, one, he's getting up there in the years, but he also had different, not diseases, but factors that were leading towards him.
Yeah, no, he wasn't healthy, but there was a surprise because he just did a concert July 5th. They wheeled him out on stage in that chair and he sat there and sang a bunch of his songs. And it was like, okay, I'm not expecting the guy to die in 2.5 weeks. Well, he was dead 2.5 weeks later.
So that was a surprise, actually.
Yeah.
That because when you listen to him talk, it was just basically mumbling.
Yeah.
However, when he did that concert, it seemed like you could really understand what he was saying, which is interesting. And he was able to sing. There's some older folks out there that attempt to continue to perform and really, really shouldn't. But Ozzy did a good job.
Yeah, no, he did. He did. Those two actually kind of hit me a little bit for whatever reason. I guess it's just because I was entertained by both of those guys growing up, and they were two very different people culturally, but generationally, I would say that they were in alignment. And sad as that is, their deaths, I guess, have prompted me to talk about a phenomenon called the hierarchy of death. Have you ever heard of that, Rebecca?
I have not.
Yeah, I hadn't really heard of it either, but looking into stuff, you come across terms and stuff, and I'm like, what even is that? And it's kind of it's an interesting phenomenon, quite honestly. But how we actually place so much importance and focus on famous people's lives, but generally have a complete lack of concern for the unknown. That's basically what the hierarchy of death, signals. And it's a concept about more or less how society and media gives different weight to people's deaths based on factors like fame, wealth, or closeness to power. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a lot of little girls that disappear and things bad happen to them, but we all know about John Benet Ramsey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, the little pretty little beauty pageant princess that we all heard about. Well, why is that?
Yeah, what blows me away is that her story materializes every now and then, and it's been what 20 plus years.
Well, you know why that is because she's a cash cow. She was a cash cow back then. They were running ads on John Benet Ramsey stories for a long time, for months, if not a year or more, when that was a hot story, and that sells ads. So they're going to glom on to something that is going to produce some revenue. So they're still just fishing. There's, hey, let's throw out some John Bonet and we'll get a story going.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it's, I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Evening, Atrides. How are you doing this evening? Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're never going to find her.
No. Yeah, celebrities or big names, they get massive coverage, but everyday tragedies often go unmentioned, right?
Yeah, it's let's just take Michael Jackson for an example. I mean, his funeral and everybody, oh, Michael Jackson, blah, blah, blah. But, when your grandma dies or your mom dies, it's a small group that, around, which I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily need a big crowd to mourn over my.
Yeah. Obviously people die every day, thousands, right? Thousands of people die every day, but it's an interesting phenomenon how some people's lives are elevated in this hierarchy, right?
Because they're a performer or an actor or a politician.
Right. Yeah. One of the examples I can draw from here in the last couple of years is George Floyd. And, I could admit, I guess, that it was an unfortunate circumstance where George Floyd happened to lose his life while being detained by law enforcement. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to relitigate whether the police or George Floyd was at fault in that whole thing. That's not what, I have a concern to do. But I do find it somehow refreshing how politicians can show so much concern for people like George Floyd, right? So much to the point where they take a knee, right? And condemn the police who were just doing their job. You remember that?
Yeah.
I remember it. I don't know, maybe some other people remember it, but here's a clip. And now this clip that I'm going to show is, I don't think it has much in the way of audio, but it's Nancy Pelosi and it is Chuck Schumer and a couple of other elected representatives kneeling, and they kneeled for like 8 minutes and 46 seconds or whatever it was that George Floyd, his neck got kneeled on. And so this was their symbolic display and support and solidarity for this poor, victimized individual who died at the hands of the police. Remember those? Yeah. So that's all of them sitting there, and they've got their African dashiki draped around their neck and their COVID masks. And they're out there demonstrating this for this individual. Yeah, I think that's an unfortunate thing that he died, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's nobody, I don't think, started out the day thinking that was going to happen, but it's just something that happened in the course of the cops doing their job, right?
Yeah. And I think I don't know that it's actually 100% clear as to why he died. I know that he had a lot of drugs in his system. Again,
I'm not here to relitigate all that. I mean, I agree with you. That's what I'd heard as well. But, I just want to say that I think it's fantastic that our elected representatives speak out for those among us who have been victimized or have no voice. Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I wish they would actually show the same level of passion and support for those victimized minor children and young women still awaiting some level of justice from their abusers in the Epstein case. Wouldn't that be fantastic as well?
That would be great. That would be really nice.
Wouldn't that show that they have some level of consistency as it relates to, their care for people and their concern?
Except for I don't think they really care for people unless it's serving a cause them for some reason.
What would give you that impression, Rebecca?
Because they're not consistent.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's crickets from the establishment, not a peep from Pelosi, not a peep from Schumer, the Clintons, Obama, Trump, Speaker Johnson. They're not really saying too much about wanting to get to the bottom of any of that for those victims, those young women and girls who were victimized. Many of them might not even be alive anymore, right?
I would say the majority of them aren't alive.
You think so? You think they got whacked?
I do.
Disposed of? So a lot of people every year that just disappear and they're missing persons. You think they might be among some of those people just based upon the fact that this has been such a secretive thing that has been out there hanging over the cloud of our government?
I think that they're not going to be just set free, or even if they were to attempt to get away, they're not going to allow that to happen because somebody's going to talk. So the best thing to do is just dispose of them.
Right. 3 of the people that I just mentioned were in complete control of the Justice Department, allegedly. The 3 presidents, Trump, Obama, and Clinton. I guess you could throw Biden in there, but he was kind of just there. I don't think he was really in control too much of anything. Seriously. But they haven't attempted to really get to the bottom of this whole thing for those women. And so I don't know. Real victims are generally swept aside in favor of propaganda, masquerading as compassion, I think. Right? So, do you remember this one? Let's pull this up. Here's another gem from Speaker Pelosi, because she's very compassionate. She loves the people who need their voices heard. She's willing to speak for them. She's very interested in this George Floyd guy.
Again, thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice.
What's going on here?
For being there to call out to your mom.
I don't know why that's not playing.
So again, thank you.
What happened? Is my sound going? I don't know what's going on here. Hold on a sec.
For sacrificing your life for justice. For being there to call out to your mom. How heartbreaking.
Okay, that's not going to work. So anyhow, that was Nancy Pelosi. She was up there again, extolling the victimization of George Floyd. She's very, 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 very impressed by that. Spent a lot of time talking about him, but not so much about other things.
Yeah. Well, again, I believe he was killed by a white police officer.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah. So it's a white on black crime. That's gives them a lot of weight to talk about. I mean, they don't talk about black on black crimes or anything like that.
Right.
But something to stir the pot and get people all riled up about.
Yeah.
They're all on it.
Yeah. There was people killed in Chicago last night. Yeah. You don't really hear much about that.
No, you don't hear anything about it.
It's because they're disposable. Those people don't matter. They don't sell commercials. They don't get the base whipped up into a frenzy because it's black on black crime, right? Last year there were 58,000 deaths from fentanyl in the United States. And so if we were to extrapolate last year's figures to the first half of this year, that would mean we're somewhere around 32,000 people who have already died from fentanyl this year alone. Where's anybody taking a knee for them?
Yeah, nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, it's not an issue, right? I'm not hearing the media or politicians acknowledging their deaths with the same level of concern. But these are somebody's father, they're somebody's mother, somebody's sister, brother, son and daughter, who have lost their life in really what can only be described as an epidemic. I mean, that's a real tragedy, man. And that's just fentanyl. That's not heroin. That's not any of the other drugs that are out there on the street. People are killing themselves, whether it's through violence or whatever, and you don't hear a damn thing because you know why? Because they don't rise to the level of some of these other people who can sell ads on TV. It's called the hierarchy of death. And I mean, it actually should make people a little bit more concerned about it and call these people out, but nothing's ever really going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know that there ever will be.
No, I don't think that there will be either.
But
I mean, don't you think it's a little insulting to have politicians like this continue to gaslight the public as if they have any real concern, especially when they wrap their concern around a fake movement like Black Lives Matter?
Yes.
Right?
All lives should matter.
100%. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Black lives really did matter to them, they would do something about the Black lives that are terminated every year before they get the opportunity to take their first breath.
Yeah.
You know, the percentage of people that get abortions in the Black community is higher than any other community.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they hang out at Planned Parenthood. But I don't know, maybe that's all part of the plan. Just for some context, this might blow you away, Rebecca. In 2024, there were an estimated 1,140,000 abortions in the United States. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
That's a lot of killing.
I know that hospitals used to have what they referred to as baby drops. So
They still have those sort of things.
do they still have them?
Yeah.
Where a person could have the baby and it actually in the back of the hospital, there's beds that they just drop the baby off and they go. And to me, that's a more humane way.
Yeah. We used to have those at the fire stations in San Mateo County when I worked there. I never was on duty or working when somebody dropped one off, but I know that has happened when I was working down there because I would hear about it, so-and-so dropped off a kid or whatever at the whatever station. Mm-hmm. But all of our stations in that area, they had the placards on them and stuff. And it was widely known that you could drop off a baby if that's what you wanted to do anonymously. Mm-hmm. And, to your point, I think that is probably a much better option than the other. But I mean, isn't that crazy? 1,140,000 abortions in the United States. And so that's about 3,100 abortions per day. So from the standpoint of the lives lost, it's equivalent to the lives lost on September 11th every day in a year.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, So in the first half of this year, that would already be about 640,000 lives that have been extinguished from abortion. And I haven't heard one peep from the media and those politicians who showed so much compassion for the life of George Floyd. They're very compassionate people. Did you see them taking a knee for like 8 minutes for this Black guy who,
for the most part has lived and has lived a good chunk of his life.
Right. Now I'm not dismissing what happened to the guy. I'm not dismissing that, but it would just be nice to have some consistency if, you're somebody who purports to care for life. I find it very interesting when you look into and analyze the hierarchy of death, because it really shows the true colors of one's character when they get offended with the phrase, all lives matter. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where people would come out and say, all lives matter. And the left would get triggered. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's one of the reasons why they get triggered so hard is because if you acknowledge that all lives matter, it invalidates their support of abortion.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, prove me wrong.
I can't.
Doesn't it invalidate the argument that all lives matter? If you buy into all lives matter, which most people would say, yeah, that's better than saying one group matters more than the other.
Mm-hmm.
All lives do matter. If you're a sane individual,
Yeah.
if you're not coming from a place of politics, but rather compassion.
Well, they get to pick and choose.
What makes them better than the rest of us? Why do they get to pick and choose? How does that factor into them having the ability to pick and choose? What do you mean?
Well, there's going to be what we basically just said before, that they're going to get everybody all stirred up and cause a big emotion over and work towards their cause, as opposed to if everybody matters and nobody gets stirred up and there's no ruckus and no attention called in a certain manner, then it doesn't work for them.
So it's to their benefit.
Yes.
It's not really to anybody else's benefit.
They could care less about Joyce. See, now I'm like you. I can't speak. George Floyd.
I'm not the one having problems.
You were earlier.
You're going to... Jeez. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I think the reason why I was bringing this up is really just to solely discredit the left, because they are just so inconsistent with that. And it's really just gaslighting is what it is. But they actually do a pretty good job of discrediting themselves. I think that they should really need to get some new phraseology, get some new slogans. Because Black Lives Matter, it doesn't work if you only selectively choose which Black lives you're going to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And to your point about, I tied it into the Chicago thing. And I look at that website from time to time, pulling it up.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually down from what they were last year.
Wow.
In numbers, which is great. That's great. They've got less violence there, but there's still, close to 250 people that have been murdered in that Chicago area just in this year, the first half of this year. So they're on track to get around 500 deaths.
That's still a lot of deaths.
That's a lot of people. And they don't have any concern for that.
I don't think I've ever heard him talk about Chicago and the deaths that happened there. Not
even when Obama was president, and he was from Chicago. So you would think, I think the Black community as a whole, and I don't, I'm not, tuned in to the Black community, but I have heard some people talking about it. And there seems to be a level of disappointment with him because they had, high hopes that he was going to do something for the Black community. And it just never materialized. In fact, he just kind of made things worse from the standpoint of race relations in the country. Yes, that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a shame. Phraseology. Another thing that they could probably stand to get rid of is the whole phrase, my body, my choice. Right?
Mm-hmm.
My body, my choice. And that seemingly only works for them when you're talking about abortion, but it doesn't apply to bodily autonomy when the government is mandating the population to take a novel experimental vaccine technology. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That whole Dr. Fauci 2020 era stuff that was going on, 2021.
Yeah.
That was a wacky time.
Vaccine that hasn't even been tested.
Well, it was tested on the population.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were the guinea pigs.
No.
Not me, because I didn't take it, but...
You said we. Who's
Well, I'm referring to the folks who did take it.
Right. I thought you,
No, I didn't take it.
okay.
Did you?
No. Thankfully, no. But anyhow.
We were in the mountains for a good chunk of that.
Yeah. What do you think, Rebecca? What do you think about all that? The hierarchy of death and everything. I know it's kind of a macabre topic for us to discuss tonight, but it was something I'd been thinking about this week, just in the fact that we had some celebrity deaths. And of course, there's all this focus on these celebrities. And then it gets me to thinking about all the people that have just as much value to somebody that go unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be nice if there would be a little bit more consistency with the people putting out the messaging, from the politicians to the entertainers to the propagandists in the media. It would just be nice if there was a little bit, take the temperature down, so to speak, right? Not try to get one side whipped up against the other, but say, hey, you know what? We're all in this together in some regard, and all lives do matter. And we're not going to play one neighbor against the next, spreading misinformation about them, telling lies just to get people whipped up. So that's my effort in confronting what I see as an obvious fault with our system. And if we had more people that were willing to confront the people that are gaslighting and throwing out misinformation, I think that they would have less leverage to do what they do against people. We still have First Amendment, and people need to speak when they have a turn. It's great to listen, to hear what they say, but when you smell bullshit, you have to be able to call them on that. Mm-hmm. If you don't, they're going to continue to lie.
Yeah. And I would love to say that I have a solution to that. But my only solution as far as politicians is the term limits. You're in for your 6 years, you're out. You don't get to be transferred over into a different position. You don't get to run for Secretary of State. Now that you were just a congressman, you had your time, you're gone. New blood in. And hopefully that would flush out some of
that's a nice thought.
It is a nice thought. It's never going to happen.
Right.
Never going to happen, but I would say that's what needs to be done.
Yeah. I don't even know if that.
I don't know if that would necessarily help the whole Black Lives Matter type of thing, but it might, because you're bringing in people with new ideas.
You know what I think, actually, what makes more sense than that to me is going back to Charleston White and fixing what's in the mirror first, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have the ability to do something at a local level within your community, but it has to start with you. And so many of the people that are in these positions, they're already corrupted. They're too far gone. They're too far in that world. Mm-hmm. You think anything that we do at our level is going to affect Gavin Newsom and the people like him? They are connected, and they're a part of the oligarchy. They're a part of the system. And I don't know if we have much ability to affect that. We can just observe and then try to do what we can do at the local level. But it has to start at home, right? Mm-hmm. Do we need to vote harder? Is that what the answer is? Because I've heard people say, hey, if you just vote harder, maybe next time we'll get somebody in there that's going to do the things we want.
I would agree with voting harder if there wasn't so much cheating. But there's so much cheating going on
But
that it doesn't matter what you vote.
But here's the thing. You get chickens' lives matter.
They do. I love my chickens.
Yeah, Johnny Jones in the house, man. Chickens' lives matter. My garden is so much better because of them. Yeah, that's on the real, man. That's what you can do something about. And, you know, we can speculate about everything. I don't know. I just think it's interesting to try to understand what's happening in the world around us, because there's so much chaos and confusion every day.
Yeah, I have to address the chickens' life matter. You know, I try to explain to my chickens that they would look a lot cleaner if they would stand in the sprinkler and not take a dust bath. You should
bring them in and bathe them, and then you could tell them little, you know, things and give them snacks. And we could put bows in their hair and put them on Instagram. That'd be a hit.
That'd be so cute.
That'd be a hit.
I tell them about their feet, and they really could use a pedicure.
Yeah. Yeah. John says, try having ducks. Yeah. I don't know, man. A lot of folks do have the ducks. They like the duck eggs and whatever else ducks do for them. I guess you can eat the damn things.
You can eat them.
Yeah.
I don't like duck. I've had it. It's
okay. It depends on how it's done, right? Oh, here we go. She doesn't like duck.
I don't like duck.
Can you imagine?
I don't like duck. I don't like sheep.
Put it in a hamburger and you probably like it.
I doubt it. Our daughter, I went over to her house and she was making hamburgers, and she tried to sell it to me that it was a hamburger, and it was half hamburger and half sheep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I sat there and I forced that thing down, sitting at the table, trying to be polite. And I just could not get the last bite in. And she just thought that was the funniest thing. She was so tickled. She goes, I got you to eat sheep and you didn't know it. I said, oh yeah, I knew. That's why I couldn't eat that last bite.
Oh, good grief. But anyhow. But hey guys, that's enough talking about death. What do you think? Let's wrap that up. Let's put a bow on that one. The hierarchy of death. That's not too cheerful.
So this is kind of a little bit off that.
I hope so.
It still has death in it. But when you were a kid, did you ever at night go and like run around in the graveyard with your friends?
I did not.
You
did?
I did.
Was it freaky?
It's kind of freaky, yeah.
Yeah, I bet it was. That wouldn't be a thing I'd really want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cool. Anyhow.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. Has anybody else out there done that? It's an odd thing, but you know, when you're kids, you do really not correct things.
Yeah. But hey, I'm gonna leave you guys with this, just because this right here, this guy, I didn't really like watching, you know, his wrestling matches, but I actually did like watching his interviews and all his showmanship. And right here is the guy that just passed away, but he was in his prime right about this time.
What about it, Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, that was the man, Hulk Hogan, in his prime. And I think what's pretty awesome about that for me is that that's what makes America great right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a guy like that become a millionaire doing what he was doing, which was basically just entertaining. Everybody knew it was a total setup. It wasn't like real wrestling. I mean, those guys really did throw each other around, and they got jacked up, and it was a real match in a sense, but they, you know, the outcome was predetermined. They knew who was going to win and all of that. So it was kind of a sham, but yeah, it's kind of a passing of a legend, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So anyhow.
Yes. Oh yeah.
How's that again?
Oh yeah, man.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, guys, and hanging out with us. A little bit of a different episode, but that's kind of the way we like to do it here keep it fresh and keep it interesting, and never know what's going to happen. So,
yes, always remember that there is a positive to every negative. Look that way instead of the negative. Always look at the positive. Keep yourself healthy, and happy.
and I'm gonna end on that. I don't think I can top that. That's what we call Rebecca's words of wisdom, and we're gonna go out on top with that one. So thanks again, guys. Homesteading is not harmful content, and go out tomorrow and be better than you were today.
Bye, guys.